Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, everyone out there. Happy Tuesday to you. Happy Tuesday to you. See what we talk about today. You see what we're addressing today. It's been a wonderful, wonderful time of year. Let me just make sure I'm good on all the platforms. Go live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. So I'm checking all the platforms, make sure the sound check is good. So let me do that real quick before we get started today. All right. LinkedIn, we're good. LinkedIn, we're good. Let's go to Facebook. Actually, you know what? I should probably share it, right? Go live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. All right. And all right, make your move. Make your move. All right, we're good. We're good on Facebook. Let's get it. Let's get it. Let's get it. Let's get it. You see it. They ain't just dropping out of spaceships. They ain't just dropping out of spaceships, folks. These people, the final four teams, as a Michigan fan, you kind of hate to see. I hate to say it, but you got Ohio State. You got Notre Dame, and you got Penn State all in the Final Four. Only a year after we won the whole thing, and these got to be the team. So, it's just that it has to go down. It just goes down like that sometimes. So today we'll be addressing the concept and the understanding that the people that we see, the way you build the right team is you have to have a certain type of mix, a certain group and a certain mentality, a certain mix of people and mentalities that you have to have if you want to build a cohesive and a culture. And I'm going to translate that, as I do so well, as I do every single day for you guys. I'm going to translate that into the business world. All right. So before we get started, let me just introduce myself. My name is Aswan Crookshank, former Division I college football player and current 5-time published author and educator. And what I do now is I created a business in which I use the innovative teamwork lessons that I learned on a football field and apply them to businesses so business owners can have a staff that is moving as cohesive as a championship youth or a high school football team. So before we get into today's topic, let me get through some announcements, and then I gotta address the Tyreek Hill situation. I do have to address the Tyreek Hill situation, seeing that I am out here in South Florida, and I talked about the Jimmy Butler situation, so I'm going to address that as well. But let me just get through these announcements, and then we'll get into what we're going to be discussing today, which is finding the right mix, understanding the right mix of talent, understanding the right mix of mentality, understanding the right mix of people, and understanding that their past, the previous situations that they've been a part of, where they've been, is going to dictate their future, is going to dictate your success. All right. Very, very important concept to understand as you're going about building your teams, especially this time of year where everything is brand new. Jobs are being open, and jobs are being lost, and people are leaving. They have goals to move on, all sorts of things going on. There needs to be some structure in place. All right. So before I get into all of that, first things first, if you are in the West Palm Beach area, if you live in West Palm Beach, Florida, and you are interested in free boxing lessons, you heard me correctly, free boxing lessons. I do those every 2 weeks. Just hit the QR code that you see right there on your screen. Shoot me a message and I will send you the details. All right. Next thing, business owners. If you have not yet, make sure you go to freeguide.makeyourmove.com and get a free guide. I put together 10 different ways in which you could use innovative teamwork to reduce the turnover in your business right now. You heard me correctly. Reducing the turnover. All right. Reducing the turnover is incredibly, incredibly important. It's telling you the facts. It's telling you exactly the trends that are going on with AI, with technology, with the ability to really structure and do a lot of things on your own these days. The turnover rates are naturally going to go up. You don't want that as a business owner. As a business owner, you want the people that are representing your brand, the brand ambassadors. You want them actually being people that can still that can still create word of mouth epidemics, that can make sure they speak about your product, speak about your services from word of mouth. There's nothing more powerful than a word of mouth referral. All right. That's never going to change. I don't care how much technology is taken over. The word of mouth recommendation, the word of mouth, spreading your business, talking about your products through word of mouth, that is always going to be the most dependable way to build your business and spread the word about your business, which means, again, you're gonna need this. You're gonna need this. You're gonna need to figure out how you can bring people into your business and allow them to feel like they're part of a team, a winning culture, and a team that's gonna, stand the test of time. All right. And finally, patreon.com/as144. Make sure you tap into the Patreon link. I have something for everybody, regardless of where you are at financially, whether you want to come in at the preseason level, the regular season level, the postseason level. It's an exclusive group of business owners that are going to help create opportunities and you can bounce ideas off of. And more importantly, I do offer a complimentary workshop for anybody that comes into that community to really talk to you guys about how you can structure your hiring process, how you can streamline your system to where every single person in your system, in your company is taking the job or taking the position as serious as if it was their business. This is my promise to you as a business owner. All right. So all that being said, let's get into some recent news. I'm recording this day before, actually it's the day before my birthday. It's January 7th, 2025. And normally this time of year, every year I look forward to it because this is right when the playoffs start. College season's coming to an end and, I'm getting a year older. The new year is just a week away from the new year. So every single year there's like added motivation during this time. And there's always news when it comes to the football world. There's just a lot going on whenever it gets to be my birthday time. A lot going on, at least in my world, the world I'm very passionate and very knowledgeable about when it comes to football. And the past 24 hours have been absolute. Well, we'll even probably bump it up to the past 72 hours have been absolutely crazy. So for those of you who don't know, I do currently reside out here in South Florida, and I am a Miami Heat fan. Even though I grew up in Maryland, I was a Miami Heat fan even when I lived in Maryland, and I am a former Miami Dolphins Foundation employee. So I used to work for the Miami Dolphins. So whenever they're in the news, and they've been in the news, both franchises have been in the news quite a bit these past 72 hours. One, Jimmy Butler is basically saying he wants to leave. And I gave a take on that. I personally didn't like it, but my take was more so about the fact that it continues to make it so people don't want to watch the NBA. The NBA's product is continuing to lose value when you get a player like Jimmy Butler, who, again, I'm not going to lie, I think he's an absolutely incredible talent. You got to give him credit for the fact that he took the Heat to the finals twice, lost both of them. But at the end of the day, he took the team to the finals twice. It wasn't just him. Obviously, there's no real big man outside of Bam Adebayo. And, for the most part, he's been a good player. But when it comes to that front office, we already know we talk about Pat Riley. You know what I'm saying? We talk about Pat Riley. This ain't no pushover GM where you just gonna bully around and tell him what you're gonna be doing. Like this is Pat Riley, dog. Pat Riley let D Wade go. Pat Riley don't play that shit, man. Like, look, I like Jimmy Butler. I get it. You feel like you need to get paid more. You're getting up there in age. You understanding that you got 5 years left to play, or maybe your relevancy is not what it used to be back when you were in Chicago and all that. But the crazy thing is what you liked about being with the Miami Heat. I remember when he first got to Miami, what he liked about being with the Miami Heat was the culture, was the no nonsense culture that's kind of created whenever you hear about Heat culture. There's that no nonsense mentality. We show up, we get to work, all that kind of stuff, because we got Mr. GM, Mr. Pat Riley in the front office. And I actually remember listening to several of D Wade's podcast interviews and when they used to interview him about that time when the big three came up and all, like when the big three was really relevant in basketball. And I remember D Wade's actually been saying, he told LeBron one time, he goes, yo, you don't want Pat Riley to come coach this team. To want Pat Riley to come coach this team. So right now, Jimmy Butler's in a kind of a dispute. I guess he's serving a 7-game suspension because of the way he commented on how he doesn't want to, basically saying he didn't want to be in Miami and all that kind of stuff. And my take was on it is, hey, okay, that's fair, but you're not dealing with some pushover GM that's just going to let you talk about his franchise, a franchise that's won 3 NBA finals, 3 championships, and you have brought zero championships. That was the thing. Jimmy Butler actually won one of these finals. All right, you could sort of get what he's saying, but you haven't won a ring. Getting to the finals is not Miami Heat standards. That's not the Miami Heat standards. It's not. Just getting there is not the standard. The standard is winning the damn finals. All right, that is the Miami Heat standard. So that all went down, and I gave a take on that, which was pretty much what I just said. But then you had 2 days ago, Sunday, where you have another classic rivalry, New York Jets, Miami Dolphins in New York. And the chances of the Miami Dolphins actually getting into the playoffs were slim to none. Like I said, I'm a former employee for the foundation. So I know the fan base I know what the fan base is like. I know how the fan base operates. I know the expectation isn't really that high when it comes to the Miami Dolphins, because a lot of people who live out here in South Florida are like me. They came from up north, or they came from different places. So you don't get a lot of like psychotic, diehard Miami Dolphins fans. They definitely don't have the fan base like the Miami Hurricanes, right? So the expectation is never really outside after Dan Marino and Jason Taylor and maybe Zach Thomas. You don't really get a lot of Miami Dolphin fan base. If you compare, and again, I'm a big college football man, so if you're comparing the Miami Hurricanes and the Miami Dolphins football teams, the vibe you get here is people are more so leaning on the Hurricanes because they brought home rings, they brought home championships, and the Dolphins, the last year, I remember them bringing 72. They brought the undefeated season, but then I believe they brought another one at 80. Larry Zonka was another one that they brought. So again, I say all that to kind of give you an understanding of what the Miami Dolphin fan base, what the vibe of the Miami Dolphin fan base is. And I could remember it was 3 years ago when this is when I was heavily working with Positive Coaching Alliance, PCA, right? And I remember, let me put it up real quick. I remember doing a workshop. I was doing a workshop for the Miami Dolphins camp. It was a youth camp that the Miami Dolphins have put on every single year, and I was hosting a workshop for them. All right. And I'll never forget it because I'm giving a speech to a bunch of Miami Dolphins campers, right? Young kids, elementary school, maybe some middle school, and I'm there doing my thing, giving a speech to them. And somebody said something about Tyreek Hill signing to the Miami Dolphins. And I'm like, come on, man. I mean, you got it made in Kansas City. I did not believe these kids. I swear it was me and them. I stopped mid-speech, not believing what they're saying. I did not believe these kids. I'm like, come on, dog. I didn't even know he was even considering leaving Kansas City. At the time, I believe they didn't. They made it to the Super Bowl. This is when they lost to Tampa. So they had already won one, but I'm like, there's no way he's leaving that bad man, Pat Mahomes. You had Pat Mahomes, you had Kelsey, you had Andy Reid. The system is in place. Like if you're talking football stuff, there's no way you're leaving. You'll make it work in some kind of way. And then I looked at my phone and I realized, oh snap, the Miami Dolphins just signed Tyreek Hill. And I had this reaction in front of a bunch of campers, a bunch of Miami Dolphin campers who were all excited. Like, yeah, we got the cheetah, we got the cheetah, we got the cheetah, we got the cheetah, we got the cheetah. So So, long story short, as I let it sink and I let the excitement kind of get out of the room, because again, this is Miami Dolphin people. At the time, I'm doing workshops at different high schools, and everyone's looking up to Tyreek Hill. They all love him out here. Absolutely love them some Tyreek Hill. If we're talking about the young, if we're talking about the typical young football player in South Florida, they absolutely love Tyreek Hill, to the point where I even now, like, I teach at a school now, and at recess, most of the time I'll be throwing the football with the kids, and whenever they're catching the ball, you see them going. I swear to God, they'll catch it, and then you see the little fifth graders on some throwing the peace sign like Tyreek Hill and all that kind of stuff. Like, his influence out here is massive. All right, massive, right? So, he's the kind of player that gets a lot of people excited, can get a lot of people showing up. Now, let me react, and let me just explain to you all why I am not surprised at how bad this thing is going to end, or it pretty much already has ended. You can pretty much put a nail in the coffin when it comes to him and the relationship with that organization. Why am I not surprised? Is because I've seen this over and over and over again. I need you guys to listen to me very carefully, very closely. When it comes to building a football program, and this is actually going to lead into what today's topic is. When it comes to building a football program, your wide receivers cannot be your best player. It's a problem if your wide receiver is the best player on the team. It's a problem if your wide receiver is the highest paid player on the team. Immediately, and I'm telling you straight up, immediately when this deal went down, I thought about OBJ. I thought about Odell Beckham Jr. You got to understand, with me, I went to college. The name of my school is Stony Brook University. I went to college in New York, and I was around. I'm a diehard Redskins fan, but I went to school with a ton of Giants fans, like absolutely obsessed New York Giants fans. And I remember I went to school. I graduated in 2010. So the New York Giants won 2 Super Bowls while I was in college. All right. They won 2 Super Bowls while I was in college. And the reason that they won these 2 Super Bowls was because their D line consisted of Strahan, Justin Tuck, O.C. Humaniora. They had the one from South Florida. I can't even. Jason Pierre-Paul. Yeah, Jason Pierre-Paul. They had a D line that was able to get after Tom Brady in those 2 Super Bowls, if you can recall, right? Next thing you know, a couple of years later, they find this incredibly talented guy out of LSU named Odell Beckham Jr., who lit the league on fire, made a lot of highlight plays. I mean, up, down, he's catching one-handed. In fact, I even have it in my book here. I do, because I remember his acro. Yeah, here it is. His acro. He was so acrobatic. I put it right here in this book. All right, he was what the kids like to call him. I've seen OBJ take little slant routes and to the house, like out of here. Dog. I've never, like, my man would take a damn hitch or some route that you just get for the first down, and my man would be out. Odell Beckham Jr. was incredibly talented. So I saw him play. And whenever I would see Tyreek Hill play, I'd be reminded of that type. Just playmakers, incredible playmakers, can break a game absolutely wide open. All right. So here's what happened. They paid OBJ what he thought he was. I mean, you're talking about the New York market. They reset the whole receiver market when they paid Odell Beckham Jr. What have the Giants done since they paid Odell Beckham Jr.? I'll wait. What have the Giants done since that contract? And I believe it was a 2018, if I'm not mistaken. I have it pulled up. Hold on. I have it pulled up. Yeah, 2018. It was 2018 when Odell Beckham Jr. got that massive contract from the New York Giants. And I'm going to put the question out there to any Giants fans that may be listening. What exactly happened to your team since they paid OBJ that money, since he got his money? gets traded to the Browns. Unfortunately, he tears his, actually before he got traded to the Browns, unfortunately he tore his ACL. Then he goes to the Browns. I mean, good for him that he actually played for the Rams and got a Super Bowl. I'm happy for him in that regard. But when it comes to the team, the Giants organization, when they paid that receiver that kind of money, as talented as he is, as great as a player as he is, it did not equate to wins and losses, which is what it should be about. So when I saw that Tyreek Hill was coming to the Miami Dolphins, and I saw the numbers and I saw everything that came with getting Tyreek Hill to leave Kansas City to come to Miami, I had those exact same thoughts. I said, look, this is going to end really, really bad, because I don't care how talented the receiver is, you can't have that talented of a receiver be your highest paid player, and you can't have it to where he's your best player, right? How did I know this? Going into this offseason, think about the people that they got rid of since Tyreek Hill. They got rid of Gesicki, who was a great tight end, would make a ton of plays for the Miami Dolphins, a lot of possession plays, made a lot of first downs, he was a taller tight end, so he was able to threaten the pass game. He wasn't just bringing it in. So he opened up the field for whether it was Waddle, whether it was Tyreek Hill, whether it was the run game. Gesicki was a huge deal for the Miami Dolphins. He's no longer with the team. I think it's with the Raiders. I can't remember what team he is, but the big one, in my opinion, was when they let go of Christian Wilkinson. Yeah, Wilkinson, the one out of Clemson, that D tackle that they took in the first round a couple of years ago. This was the year, I think it was the COVID year, if I'm not mistaken, but yeah, because it was the first year with Brian Flores, and he comes in as the D tackle, and he was able to make a lot of things happen from the defensive standpoint. So now he's playing with the Las Vegas Raiders. And I remember doing a video after that trade went down. I said, that's a huge loss, is losing him, because he anchored that D line. And when you look at the way the Giants won those two Super Bowls, it's because that D line was anchored and they were able to get after Tom Brady. So my reaction to it pretty much is, look, think he's a great talent. Obviously, Pairs voted him as the best player in the National Football League, and I wouldn't dispute it. I think he's one of those where you can put him in the slot, you can put him at running back, give him a reverse. Anything you could do to get the ball in Tyreek Hill's hands, listen, he's a threat to go all the way every single time. But at the same time, he can't be the best player on the team. It's not going to equate to wins and losses just having him on the field. And if you make the mistake of overpaying him, you're going to cost your franchise years and years of winning, the same way the New York Giants did when it came to Odell Beckham Jr. When they paid him that large contract, I would challenge any Giants fans that's listening to me right now, if you had to do it again, would you have not preferred the D-line that you had during those Super Bowl runs, or paying Odell Beckham Jr. I don't even have the number, but I know it's something crazy that he got when you think about how they won the Super Bowls that they had previously won. They won it up front, getting after the pass. All right. So that's my take on it. And that leads me into what we're going to be talking about today. The topic of today's video, which is, they ain't just dropping out of spaceships. Man, just look at every image. Look at all of them. All right. We have the Final Four. Let me tell you, as painful as it is, as a Michigan fan, a whole year's gone by after we have won it all, 15-0, national championship. I got to sit back and watch Ohio State, Notre Dame, Penn State. I got to sit back and watch the potentially one of those three teams win a national championship. So I got to be a Texas fan for the rest of the college football season, because I don't want to see them. I mean, I ain't gonna lie. If Ohio State does go win it, it'd be pretty cool to go through a whole offseason and say, oh yeah, well, Ohio State wins it, but they got that one loss, because let's say Ohio State wins it, right? And they're gonna have two losses on the season. One of them, they could say, all right, we got our payback against Oregon. And, that first one don't really count. But if Ohio State goes and wins the national championship, they got to look at their record, and they got to have that one loss, baby. They got They got to have that one loss that they couldn't avenge, and it's to the Michigan Wolverines. Go Blue! So that would be the only positive of Ohio State actually going out and winning, is the fact that, hey, they got, technically there's 2 losses on their record. One they avenged because they tapped some organized, but one they just can't get back, and they're just gonna look at that loss and say, yeah. I love it, and I'm telling you, I can't wait to seeing how the whole playoff structure has turned out. I'm telling you what's coming. What's coming sooner than later in the near future, very soon, is going to be an Ohio State versus Michigan playoff game. Oh, you know that one's coming. You know that one's coming very, very soon because of the way everything kind of structured and everything took place, right? So anyway, when it comes to today's topic, I know I got a little off track there because I'm thinking about what it would be if Ohio State wins and all that. But when it comes to this and the image that, shout out to my thumbnail guy who does an incredible job. When it comes to the 4 coaches that are in the Final Four, Ryan Day, it's Steve Sarkisian, jeez, why am I always forgetting? I'm always blanking on this guy's name. James Franklin, and I'm always blanking on his name. I don't know why. And he's my favorite out of the 4, and I'm always blanking on his name. Always. I did the same thing yesterday. No, Sunday I did the same thing, and I got it like right. And well, yes, well, I don't know why. And you know what's crazy is that it's such a common name. It's such a common name. Maybe that's why. It's such a common name, and I'm always forgetting. But anyway, Marcus Freeman, Ryan Day, James Franklin, and Steve Sarkisian. Those are the 4 coaches. Those are the 4 coaches in the Final Four. And when it comes to Ryan Day and James Franklin, I've had actual personal experiences with them growing up in the Northeast, growing up in the Maryland area. I had a chance to meet them. When it comes to Marcus Freeman and when it comes to Steve Sarkisian, I've sort of watched them develop from a distance and watch their mentality from a distance and seeing where they're going. So I'll address the game. Probably in more detail when we get the final 2 games next week when I come on the live stream and I get a chance to watch it and I see what's actually being played out. But I want to talk a little bit about how they got there, the winning formula that it takes to be successful in the football world, to build a successful football team. There are 5 mentalities. All right, 5 mentalities, and jot these down because they're going to be important as you develop the mentality and you develop a work culture and whatever job you may have. All right, first thing that you're going to need is you're going to need to have the coaching, the mentality, the management style, all right, of somebody who is from the Northeast. All right, somebody who's from the Northeast, and I will address all these points in a second. I'll address all these points in a second. Just let me get through the 5. You're going to need to have a coaching style like you're from the Northeast. You're going to need to have swagger. All right. You're going to need to have a swag like you from Cali. And again, I'm going to be addressing this. I just want to make sure I'm on the record with all 5 of these. You're going to need to have athleticism, actual playmakers, guys that are going to make some plays like you're from Florida. Jeremiah Smith and, the countless athletes that came out of Florida have to be from Florida. I'm just using them as a metaphor for now. And then you're going to have the Midwestern blue collar work ethic as if you were from the Midwest, whether it's Ohio, Michigan, Minnesota, Chicago, any one of these like blue collar towns where they're just work. Even I think you could even put Pittsburgh, kind of Cleveland, Pittsburgh area in that conversation. And number 5, you got to eat, breathe, and shit football as if you're from Texas. You have all 5 of these elements. You have a mix of these 5 elements on your organization, in your team, you will be very successful. We are in recruiting season. We're going to see, not only are we going to see the college football playoff games, you're going to actually see an all-star, the Navy All-American game is back. It used to be the U.S. Army All-American game. That's going to be back this week. I believe it's on NBC, and then you're obviously going to see the NFL playoffs get started off. So there's going to, every year, this time of year, when it comes to coaching, when it comes to, putting out the vision and what it is you want your roster to look like, those are the 5 elements that you're going to need if you're going to have success. Hello, Texas. What's up, Monica? We gotta chat, man. We gotta chat for real, man. Good to hear from you. We can at least connect on the Commander stuff. We at least agree on the Redskins and Commander stuff, but we'll definitely chat, man. So again, let me make sure I'm on the record with these 5. First of all, you gotta have coaching management style as if you're from the Northeast, DMV, Maryland area, and I'm going to address all these in a second. Next thing you're going to need, swag like you from Cali. Next thing, you got to have the athleticism like you are from Florida, and you have to have the blue-collar workman's mentality as if you're from the Midwest, and you got to eat, breathe, and shit football like you're from Texas. All right, so first and foremost, let's get into good lookers. Yes. So we Northeast. Let's start with the Northeast. All right. So when I say coaching and management style as if you're from the Northeast, here's what I've learned. And you're speaking to someone that grew up in Silver Spring, Maryland, right in the heart of the DMV, Silver Spring, Maryland, right on the outskirts of Washington, D.C., an easy drive to Baltimore. It is the town when it comes to basketball. All right. I will go at it with anybody who's willing to go at it. But Maryland, DC, Maryland, and Virginia, the DMV is the best place to find basketball players. We're the best area, best state when it comes to basketball. And I will go at it with anybody from Philly, New York. We can do this. We can do this whenever it is you're trying to do it. We can do it. We are the best. All right. So I grew up in all of that, right? However, I was a football guy. I didn't play any other sport but football, and football was the thing that I was primarily focused on, right? So I'll tell you what I mean when I say a coaching and a management style like you're from the Northeast. I had a coach. His name was Mike Wills. Shout out to Coach Mike Wills, who coached me from man, it was 3 years. 3 years. So he had me with the Briggs Cheney White. It was 6th grade. Yeah, like from basically all middle school. It's like 3 years in a row. Coach Mike was actually my coach. Now, within those 3 years, I played linebacker. Coach Mike was the defensive coordinator, and he was basically my linebacker coach at the time. So played linebacker at that time, right? And during those 3 years, it just so happened that the University of Maryland's basketball team, Terrapins, the University of Maryland's basketball team, led by Juan Dixon and Lonnie Baxter and Steve Blake and Gary Williams and them boys, they went out and won a national championship in basketball. During the time when I was in middle school. I believe my sister graduated from Maryland, but I believe she was going there during the time when the Terrapins actually won the college basketball national championship, right? So at this point, these guys are like celebrities. Like Juan Dixon, he grew up in the area I grew up in. He's like a celebrity. Lonnie Baxter, a lot of people knew who Lonnie Baxter was because these were local dudes going to the University of Maryland and bringing home a national championship. In fact, I remember we went to a Wizards game. I went to a Wizards game during that year, and the cameras caught Lonnie Baxter and Juan Dixon after they won, and the whole crowd just gets up and just gives a standing ovation, like, because they had won the chip. So, that championship mentality was something that we were feeling. We were feeling in the DMV, especially, the Maryland, baby, winning a national championship. This is something that affects you. And it affected me more as I grew up, because I realized how rare it actually is to just win it all and win the ship, and how these moments need to be, you cannot take these moments for granted. They have to be appreciated, right? Because again, they haven't won a national championship since then. So, but anyway, So during that off season, I ran track for a program named the Gideonites, and the track team would practice at the University of Maryland. And this was back before the University of Maryland turned they used to call the basketball program the Cole Field House, COLE, Cole Field House. That used to be where the basketball team, there was an actual basketball stadium there before they moved to the Comcast Center and they built a new arena for them. But we would practice at the Coalfield House. We practiced at the Coalfield House when it was cold. Obviously we have track practice, so we had indoor track, and we'd be, running around the Coalfield House and all that kind of stuff. And I remember getting to track practice one day, and I'm seeing Coach Mike coach Juan Dixon one-on-one. Like, wait a minute, time out. 30 second timeout real quick. You're talking about my linebackers coach, the coach that coached me as a kid, a little, middle schooler, teaching me how to fill holes and, take on blocks, get rid of this one and make tackles and all that. That dude is doing a one-on-one session with Juan Dixon, the national champion. This is what I mean when I say Northeast style coaching. All right, what I've learned since I've left, and I've been around, met a ton of people, met a ton of different coaches, been a lot of different coaching clinics, is when I say Northeast style coaching is you have to be able to coach multiple sports. You have to be that coach like a Coach Mike Wills, who is not just coaching me as a linebacker in middle school, but he's jumping from coaching me, and now he's doing one-on-one sessions with Juan Dixon and Lonnie Baxter. These are college basketball champions, and they're teaching you how to stay square and use your feet, use your hips, all that kind of stuff. The same stuff I'm getting. Obviously, I'm not as talented as Juan Dixon is at this time, but the same stuff I'm getting is the same stuff that Juan Dixon is getting, and that leads to the confidence when you go out there and play. Like, it was so much. I owe so much to Coach Mike Wills for for building the foundation that I had when I went on to go to Good Counsel and become, captain, first team WCAC and all that. I did that without having much actual physical ability, without having much talent, just athleticism in general. I was able to do that because the foundation was set with Coach Mike, who would teach these things way before I even got to high school, to the point where I got to high school and it was almost like second nature, just having a good solid technique in terms of how to make tackles, where your head needs to be, how to stay inside out, all of that kind of stuff. And that's what I mean. That management style is huge. So when it comes to the two coaches who are currently in the Final Four, James Franklin and Ryan Day, both of these coaches have had incredible relationships at Good Counsel. All right. I met them both when I was in high school, and they were both assistants. All right. This is how full circle this is, how crazy it is. So at the time of me being in high school, Ryan Day was a wide receivers coach at Temple, and the head coach at Temple was a gentleman by the name of Al Golden, and Al Golden is now the defensive coordinator at Notre Dame, who was in the Final Four. So you're gonna hear these same names. You're gonna hear these same names. Yep, same guy who was, and I remember, because we went. So anybody that played at Good Counsel and you graduated 07 and you were somebody that might have been recruited or somebody that could have played in college, all of us knew Coach Ryan Day, because Ryan Day would come, and there was a kid that we had at the time. He was attending our school. His name is Joey B. We used to call him Joey B. Joe Leffigat, who, by the way, is another White Oak Warrior. But Joe, he ended up playing at Rutgers. But I remember, because I would get a bunch of mail from Temple, and it was one of those just regular mailers. They didn't offer me anything like that, but they wanted Joe really bad. So the Coach Day came to Good Counsel. He watched the practice. He invited a ton of us to camp. We went to camp. I remember going to several camps because they wanted Joey B so bad. And not only that, the quarterback that they recruited that year, his name is Chester Stewart. Chester Stewart was the starting quarterback at DeMatha, which is our rival school. So Ryan Day was very familiar with Good Counsel, had a ton of relationships with them. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because as as it would have it, he went from Temple and then he spent some time with the Eagles. And then you take that Northeast mentality that he has, right, that he clearly built his career from, or where he started at, and you take it to the Midwest at a place like Ohio State, and then you learn under one of the GOATs in the college football world. Again, a Michigan fan, I have to admit it, Urban Meyer is one of the GOATs when it comes to college football. You take his style and you take Urban Meyer's style, where he learned the game in the Ohio mentality, and then you see the success that Ohio State has continued to have throughout the time because of that proper mix. All right. And I'm telling you this from personal experience, because again, I was in high school when he was just an assistant coach at Temple. And I remember actually going to Temple for the camp and seeing how he was, the energy, a lot of the ways when I coached high school, a lot of the ways I am when it comes to just that high energy guy that's constantly pushing the guys. I was thinking about when I was at camp and seeing Ryan Day do his thing and the way he was with the guys just constantly on him. And these were a bunch of high school kids. These weren't even the actual Temple guys. So that's him. The next one that's in the Final Four, James Franklin. James Franklin, I remember when I was actually a little younger than that, because I was still a sophomore in sophomore in high school when I went to the University of Maryland camp. And you see this shirt that he has right here at the bottom. So bottom right of your screen, you see James Franklin with that Maryland Terrapin shirt, that gray one. This was like Under Armour was just making some headway. They were just giving out shirts and all that kind of stuff, like Kevin Plank. Like, when I tell you I've like wrapped up in the business, they were just making, like Kevin Plank, the Under Armour people just put out these shirts. They weren't officially a sponsor yet or officially a uniform provider, but they were giving out T-shirts at every single camp at the Maryland camp. And I probably still have it somewhere back in Maryland to this day, but he was the offensive coordinator there. And it was at that point where there was a lot of clinics and a lot of things that we were learning as high school players in Maryland that had James Franklin's influence on it. Like just learning the way to run plays, certain formations, how to disguise this, how to do this, and this is why I'm such a big fan of Tyler Warren and what he's all about. Why I picked Tyler Warren to be the Heisman, because I know the way he's being utilized, and him being from the DMV and having the James Franklin as a coach, I already knew that mentality would work when it comes to Penn State. Again, a Michigan fan, I hate to admit that both Ohio State and Penn State are doing well, but this is the competition. This is the mix that you need if you want to be successful. So when I say coaching like you're from the Northeast, it's more so the long and the end of it is pretty much, it's more so about being able to do multiple things and making sure you're not staying stuck in one type of attack. All right. Whether it's Coach Mike being able to jump from coaching linebackers to coaching basketball players, or, Ryan Day jumping, Temple, and then moving over to the Midwest and Ohio State and taking that mentality, or it's James Franklin, who, bounced around. He actually was at Vanderbilt for a little bit and then came back to Penn State and do his thing. All of it is making sure you're creating a diverse group of people, and you're continuously staying very flexible. All right. Now, as far as the swag, the swag, and I pulled up a couple definitions. The swagger, as if you are from California. If you go look up the national champions of the high school level this year, you're going to see a school right there at the top, right there at the bottom left, school named Mater Dei. Same place that Bryce Young went to. They are constantly going year in and year out. It's constantly them versus St. John Bosco, which is another school out in Cali. And when I say swag like you're from Cali, it can also be, let me show you the definition of swag. Walk or behave in a very confident and typically arrogant or aggressive way. That is the definition of swag. And now look at the definition of confidence. The feeling of belief that one can rely on someone or something and trust. You take swag and confidence and you align it. That's what I mean when I say a swagger like you from Cali. And I've played with quite a few of them. Believe it or not, when I went to Stony Brook, I had a ton of teammates that were from Cali, and the majority of them, they had all of them. You can kind of tell they had a level of confidence in themselves and what they were able to do, that they can play multiple positions. And I'll give you an example, because I was in a tight ends room during it was my last season at Stony Brook, and we had a tight end who's from Cali. Shout out to Brett RC, who I believe last I heard he's an assistant coach at Arizona, if I'm not mistaken. But he was that player, man. He was that player. As I could only do one thing. I was just a fullback. Any passing, anything like that, don't put that one in a passive play. I was just literally fullback, dive left, dive right, go, block a linebacker and all that. At that point, I was and this is when I was learning the game and how flexible you have to be, especially if you're talking about offense, if you're talking about the offense, because you want to be able to stay very versatile as a play caller. You don't want to get into habit. You don't want the opponent to say, okay, that number's in, and okay, I know they're going to run that play and all that kind of stuff. So RC was the opposite. RC was able to jump over a tight end. He was able to move to receiver. You can put him at the wing and all that kind of stuff. Very rarely, and I'm telling you this is just a true fact, and then I'll move on, because I'm realizing I'm taking a little longer than I actually anticipated on this. But RC never actually practiced at fullback. And I remember there was a game, we were playing Coastal Carolina, and there was a situation where the fly route from the fullback position was wide open. All right. If we had a fullback on the roster, we didn't at the time. We didn't have a fullback on the roster that coach trusted in a fly route, then it was wide open, right? So instead of the Coach P putting one of us, whether it was myself, Nat, or Chris at the time, all three of us were former defensive guys. So at the time, there was just, and it's not a knock on me or Matt or Chris, but the time, this was our first year even playing offense. So to put us in a situation, a big game like that, to where it's not the best thing, is totally understandable. And that's just what you get when you go to Stony Brook. You just have to figure it out. And that's what I tell people all the time. Make sure you're doing multiple sports and you're able to do multiple things. But anyway, we're in the middle of a game, and a coach puts RC at fullback, first time ever. Like he never practiced this at all. Puts him at fullback and has him run a fly route, just because he knew the fly route was going to actually be open from the fullback position. RC's from Cali. There's a mentality. He didn't blink an eye. There's look, it doesn't really matter. I can do this. It's going to be pretty easy. And he goes and he runs the fly route. One of the biggest names one of the biggest surprises, in my opinion, that came out of the Michigan, as a Michigan fan, that I saw this year, was a cat named Zeke Berry. Zeke Berry, look, we got decimated when it comes to injuries. Excuse me. We got absolutely decimated when it comes to injuries this year, both offensively and defensively. And if you're a real Michigan fan, you know the name Zeke Berry. All right. Zeke Berry jumped from the slot. He was playing some not the slot, excuse me. He jumped from the nickel. He was playing the corner. He played some free safety. He was just playing his damn tail off this year and just did it. I mean, some of these, listen, the big wins, like the Ohio State win that we had, Zeke Berry was making some incredible plays. The Northwestern one before, the way he was playing, and even in some of the losses, the defense kept us in the game with the Indiana one. I thought Zeke Berry did an incredible job, because he can do a lot of things. And I remember seeing after the game last week, I got a chance to see the players and all that. I remember going up to him and say, "Hey man, you keep doing what you're doing, boy. You doing it." I'm noticing, because I actually watched the game. He was doing a lot of things that a lot of typical fans won't see. But again, Zeke Berry from Cali. You look him up. He went to LaSalle High School, which is another powerhouse program out there in the California area. So comes to swag like Cali, think confidence. Think you have to bring in a mentality. You have to bring in people now that are willing and are able to play more than one position, and they can do it. They have no issues at all in jumping from one position to the next, because they have that swag or that confidence to him. Again, the word swag and confidence can be used interchangeably in this situation. All right. Now, coming in, number 3, next thing you need. You are going to need a blue collar work ethic, as if you're from the Midwest. Good old steel mill town, baby. Let me put the image back up. All right. So you see this one right here where it says the captain, the Notre Dame. That was last year, the first offensive lineman taken off the board was from Notre Dame, from the University of Notre Dame. His name was Joe Alt. And ironically, went to the Los Angeles Chargers, which Coach Harbaugh from Michigan just takes the job. And his first pick is Joe Alt, an offensive lineman. Now they're in the playoffs. I mean, he turned him into a playoff team and his first round pick, folks, his first round pick was an offensive lineman from Notre Dame, Sharon Moore. All right, Sharon Moore, former offensive lineman. That's how we won last year. All right, I just got through explaining to you why, as great as Tyreek Hill is and as great as some of these receivers are, they're not going to translate to actual winning football games for you. It's going to be the guys up front. If you look up Joe Alt from the Midwest area, obviously went to school in the Midwest area, and there's that, you can just see it. If you're going to be a successful lineman, you have to have that bring your lunch pail to work every single day, doing it every single day. As great as LeBron is, one of the things that, in my opinion, that sets him apart, and I do believe I am on the LeBron side when it comes to the Jordan debate, but that's a conversation for another day. I do believe that he has, with his talent, obviously, he has that Ohio, Midwestern, blue collar. I'm just going to show up and do my work every single day. Let me just tell you. One of my best friends when I was at Carson Newman, shout out to Say, he's from Cincinnati. He's from Cincinnati, Ohio, and he and I would have endless conversations about this. Endless conversations where I would tell him a little bit about the way football was in the Northeast area, but then he would give me his Ohio experience of football. And that's why we became really close that year, because he would tell me, oh, it's a blue collar mentality every single day. Ohio, if you're talking about football in Ohio, he even had people from Alabama take his side on certain conversations, to the point where it's like, look, Aswan, you know football, but listen to my man who's from Ohio, who knows this is what they do in terms of just the blue collar work ethic. That's the Midwestern mentality when it comes that you're going to need in your organization. All right. So we have coaching like you're from the Northeast. We have the swag like you're from Cali. We have the blue collar workman's mentality as if you're from the Midwest. Coming in at number 4, often too many people make this the first thing, that then, don't get me wrong, you're going to need it, but you're going to need some athleticism. You're going to need athleticism as if you are from Florida. All right. Now, I put Jeremiah Smith as the pitcher, the top one. He's from right out here in South Florida. I put him on this one, but the truth is, listen, man, Florida's packed with a lot of Jeremiah Smiths. I've been here now approaching 8 years at this point. Florida is packed. I mean, literally packed. If we're talking specifically, South Florida is packed with a lot of Jeremiah Smiths out there, to the point where last week, I was getting prepared for this live stream and what I was going to talk about today. And I asked and as he grew up out here in Palm Beach. He went to Palm Beach Lakes, and I asked him, who's the best wide receiver to come out of Florida? Now, I have my personal favorite, which is Santana Moss, because obviously as a Redskins fan, he provided some great memories. But I mean, I was losing track. of the Anquan Boldens of the world. I mean, they got shit, Michael Irvin. Forgot, to the point, you got athletes when I'm having a conversation about the best wide receivers in Florida, and I'm forgetting to even bring up Michael Irvin. I like shit. Look, when it comes to the thing you're going to need, that mix. Again, you can have the great coaching like you're from Northeast. You can have the blue collar work ethic like from the Midwest. You can have the confidence and the swagger like you from Cali. You could, but you're not going to get anywhere without the damn talent. You need the talent. All right, you need the talent. And on that point, one of my fondest memories actually from my playing career was seeing and his short for Anthony. He's been on the show too, by the way, but he's from Florida, and then listening to him and say was he's from Cincinnati. Both of them came into Carson Newman playing different positions. Like Say came in as a quarterback, they moved him to receiver. Ant came in as a safety, they moved him to receiver. And probably the most classic debate of all of us, especially from that class of 07, the classic debate was when Ant and Say were going at it like, who's the better receiver? It was just getting messy. Who's the better receiver? And it's cool. It's funny to think about it now because you had two mentalities and you saw the team gelling. You know, if you have a team full of Ants and full of Say where they're competing with each other in a good way. Again, we want to see that competition, but seeing it in a positive way where they're going out and they're working and they're getting better. That's what you want as a coach. You want your typical guy from Ohio and your guy from Florida and them, you know, in some banter, in some real competition, and then making each other better every single day. All right. So those are the four core things you need. All right. Coaching like you're from the Northeast, a swag like you're from Cali, a workman's mentality, a blue collar mentality like you from the Midwest, and an athleticism like you're from Florida. Here's the final piece. Number five, you gotta love this shit. You just gotta love it. Like one thing about Texas, and you gotta eat, breathe, sleep, shit, everything football. You gotta love football, man. You gotta love it, man. Gotta love it. Oh, you gotta love it. You gotta love football. All right. You can have all four of the pieces that I mentioned. If you don't love the game, you will not last. Because when it comes to it, and I will close you out with this understanding. When you transition and you grow in this game, and there's a lot of y'all listening to me right now talking about wanting to play in college, talking about wanting to get recruited, talking about wanting to get an offer, talking about what you're going to do in college, talking about what coach told you and what offer you're going to get and what kind of cleats they got and what company sponsors them and the things you get when you get to college. There's a lot of y'all talking about that stuff. When you step on that college campus, my boy, if you don't love the game, you will be gone really quick. Because you're talking about meetings in the morning, meetings before practice, meetings after practice. And these aren't no high school practices. These are practices. These are practices, high intensity, high energy. You're running around. Yeah, the reps are quick. If you don't know what you're doing, if you're not in your playbook, guess what? You up out of it. We're moving on to somebody else. We're not like your little high school coach where you get the benefit of the doubt. It is a grown man's game. All right. And if you don't love it, if you can't get enough of it, like you just love it over and over, all your talent, all your mentality, everything it is you say you want to do it'll be lost. You know, again, the coaching mind that you may have, the damn workman's mentality that you may have, the athleticism that you may have, and the swagger and the confidence that you may have. If you don't love it like you're from the state of Texas, right? You don't love the game like you're from the state of Texas. All of that stuff doesn't matter, and you will just slowly but surely be weeded out of the system, and somebody will replace you. That's the winning formula. Now, as I translate this to you in business, as a business owner, as I translate this towards how you take this, is you have got to figure out. Now, I'm talking from the perspective of someone that's willing or looking to build a winning football program. The only thing you got to do is replace everything that I've explained to you today and say to yourself, how do I create that in my business? How do I take the company that I run and think of the formula, think of what the formula would be towards success, create that formula, and develop a line of questioning, develop an evaluation process in which I'm asking myself, in which I'm putting the right pieces in the right place every single day. If you do that in your business, you would have now at least started. You would have started. Now, it's not going to happen overnight because it takes time to find people, and it takes time to really develop a mentality really in yourself before you go look to hire other people. But it takes that kind of time. But you have got to make sure that the mix is there and you're not just looking for one type of employee, one type of certification. Oh, this person's certified to do this. This one has their master's in this. This one does this. So I'm just going to hire them without there being a vetting process. No, there needs to be a mix of a mentality. Just like, again, use the football as an example. There needs to be a mix of the high level coaching, the athleticism, the blue collar mentality, the confidence and the swagger. And again, the most important thing, you got to have people that love the service that they're providing. You got to have people that love the actual thing that you do. The same way kid born and raised in Texas loves the game of football. You got to have that mentality in your organization. They have got to love it. You cannot walk around passively just letting the time go by, because I'm telling you, your competitors are not doing that. The real competition, the real people that you're really competing with, they're not just sitting around hoping stuff happens and hoping that this hire is going to work out, or hoping that this thing is going to get sold. No, it's not working like that. The way it works, the way it needs to be working, is you need to be very intentional with who you bring into your organization, who exactly is a good fit, and is this good fit mixing and gelling well in regards to the services and the products that I'm looking to offer. That's what needs to happen. All right. So all that being said, again, it has been, man, I was so pumped to do this because, when I looked at the teams and I looked at the rosters, and I forgot to actually mention too, Marcus Freeman, who's the head coach. He's the head coach at Notre Dame. The one I forgot his name earlier, but I definitely won't forget it anymore. Marcus Freeman was a linebacker. He was a linebacker during the time there was a guy named James Laurinaitis that he played with. And I was in high school at the time. And again, even though I'm a Michigan fan, playing linebacker, I remember looking at Laurinaitis and, seeing Marcus Freeman and that whole linebacking crew do their thing. And if I think they lost, they did that. I believe they lost to Florida. They lost to Florida that year in the national championship. But, again, seeing them and seeing what he's doing now, you start to see, again, that blue collar Midwestern workman's mentality. And if you listen to Marcus Freeman do his interviews, if you listen to his press conference, if you listen to what he's all about, you see where the mentality is, and you see where, again, you have to have that mix. So when they put him in place of Brian Kelly, I kind of got the feeling just off one look that he was going to be somewhat successful. I don't really like Notre Dame like that, especially, again, me being a Michigan fan. But when you see cats like that you saw play, not any play for that damn Ohio State, but you can't help but, give him a shout out and hope he does well. It just so happens that, he's wearing the wrong stuff. But all that being said, that's neither here nor there. I will be back on this probably. So I'll definitely be back on Sunday and breaking down all the games. I have a great birthday trip planned. I'm going to the College Football Hall of Fame. I'm stopping off at Panama City and then going to Atlanta, check out the College Football Hall of Fame. So there's a lot of material, a lot of things that I'll be picking up on this week to hit this new year off, started it the right way. So all that being said, make sure you tap in with me on the Patreon link. I'm gonna put the link up here for you guys to check out. It's patreon.com/as144, where I'll be producing most of my content from here on out. We have something for everyone there. It's preseason, regular season, or the postseason. Tap in with me there. Everyone out there, continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon.